What's going on, travelers? What's going on? It's Ricky Venters and Marlon Matta, and we're back with you again for another episode of the Success Journey Show. What's going on, Marlon? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Rick, you know what's funny? When you're smiling and a lot of time people see us on the camera.
Hmm.
I don't understand behind closed doors or behind in the background what's happening in our immediate lives and how we have to still perform at a high level no matter what is
Oh
going
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
so definitely want to send prayers up for you and the family and
Yes,
um
sir. Yes.
and keep everybody in prayers because there's always something happening and people just don't know because we don't, as you're gonna see in this show, we don't blame anybody for the things that's happening to us. What we do is we confront it and we find out, we try to be problem solvers, and from there we make a good decision on what we need to do for our next steps, and then we tackle the problem.
Yeah. It's a You're so right, man. It's like I can't even tell. I'm exhausted right now, man. I can like fall out. Um, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Because whenever I am going through, so I got to keep moving. Like I got to keep
Yeah,
moving. I got to keep going. I can't just sit down and be like, okay, let's was this and that. Like no, I got to like okay, boom, 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 boom. Get do this, do this, do this, do this. Um, Even though there may be like chaos going around, right? That's where I find my serenity, like in the motion, in the doing. And it's not everyone. Everyone is not like that. I'm not professing everyone should be, but like you said, like you will never know like what goes on behind the scenes as you kind of show up every day. And man, even yesterday, man, I'm at work. Well, I work from home, praise God. But I'm on calls, and after I jump off calls for the day, I'm driving down here and there, different appointments, and going there, uh, and that this transition, you just transition so quick from one thing to the next, right? And it's just, I thank God to be able to do that because it's needed at times. Um, and I think almost every parent out there should have some aspect of that, right? Because you always go with kids, they always throw some ringers into
yeah,
life, into the daily day routine that you got to be able to adjust on the fly, right? But yeah, man, you just kudos, just like you said, it's just a lot going on. Appreciate the prayers, um, and man, we're gonna keep pushing through this, man. We're gonna keep pushing.
definitely.
Yeah, but well, today, travelers, we have a great episode for you. We pre-record all of our shows. None of these are live, and after the conversations today, it was like, hey, you know what? We need to push this one up to the top of the pile, the backlog, because it's so relevant to what a lot of the conversations that are going on right now. And you're going to hear the story of a gentleman, and you're going to hear the backstory. You're going to hear the heart of where he came from, and kind of what built his philosophies in life and his desires. And then you're going to hear how he applies that today, and advice for today for those that are looking at finance and mortgages, interest rates, all those different buzzwords that are going on right now. This is an episode that you're going to want to listen to. So, Marlon and I we're not going to take much of your time right now. We're going to jump right into it right after this quick commercial and get you guys to the guests. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. And let's jump to the next segment of this show. Peace.
Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Travelers, we are here again, back at our favorite segment of the show. Marlon and I, man, we really lucked out where we get a chance to just talk to people from all around the world about their backgrounds, learn from them. And, sometimes we just share that information with you, right? In the world, right? But yeah, we're here today with none other. And I'm going to make sure I pronounce his name right. So it's Alejandro Szita. Alejandro Szita. Did I hit it, man? Did I get it?
100%.
All right, now.
He even rolled the R.
Yeah, I try to roll. I try to get the roll in there, man.
You did it.
Yeah, now you gotta tell me a nickname. So no, I'm joking. No, so Alejandro, man, share a little bit. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Why don't you start off by just sharing us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, Ricky, thank you so much for having me on your show. Marlon, thank you very much for giving me a voice to your audience. I am from Chile. I have been in the US close to, it's going to be like 30 years now. And I am a mortgage guy, but not just a mortgage guy. I am sort of a financial person. You know, I have been interested in finances since the age of 7. And like you were saying, and like I listened to your previous podcasts from other guests that you had, they all say the same thing. You know, it's a success is a journey. You know, it wasn't always obvious what my niche was, at least not to me. To my mom and to others and to my friends, it was very obvious to them, but not to me. You know, it took me many years to know that I was the mortgage guy. But basically, I'm from Chile. I speak Spanish. I have been studying this for 40 years. I love reading economic books. You know, I have books all over the place, in the bathroom, in the bedroom. And my wife one day got upset with me, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to buy a bookcase." We had one, but it was exploding on the seams. Yeah. You have to put some order here. So she forced me to like put all my books away. And there were like about 400 books. And she goes, "Wow. Have you read all those books?" And I said, "Well, pretty much about half of them I read them." So this is a passionate subject for me because I can see how people's lives have been either ruined or like made, you know, great because of the subject of money. Nonetheless, myself, you know, I have been everywhere. I have been really low. I've been really high. I have been in the middle. And I can relate to that subject very much. Yeah. So I made it my passion and my life, you know, to help others in this aspect. Especially, you know, if you study engineering, it's very easy. You go to the university, you know how to build a bridge. There are rules. If you don't follow the rules, the bridge will collapse. But when you want to study economics, you know, I went to the university to study economics and business management. It's not like that at all. You have one professor that has one opinion. You have another professor that has a counter opinion. You know, you go and buy a book. One guy says this, another guy says that. Then you have a friend that does it one way. You have your boss that does it another way. There is not a consensus, or apparently there is not a consensus as to what you need to do. Yeah. If you listen to the government, you get nowhere because the government has no interest in you being successful. So what is there to do? So that's what I've made it my mission. I've made it my mission to really find out what is really going on.
Yeah, I love it. Alejandro, man, first, before we dive into it, you said something that you've been studying mortgages since you were 40. Now, all of our travelers, if you're looking at this on YouTube, which I encourage you to, if you're on the podcast, pause it right now, go over to YouTube and pull it up. Because, Alejandro, you don't look no more than 39. So I don't know how you've been doing it for 40 years, man.
No, man, I've been in this world a lot longer than that. But you know, I express myself like in an incorrect manner since I was 7. 40 years. Since I was 7. But I'm older than 50, so much older. Yeah, hey, I've been around. You've been around.
You gotta give us the secret. Either we gotta go to Chile and they have like the Fountain of Youth in Chile, or you have it at your house. So we gotta find a way to meet up with you to get it.
You know, I'll tell you something that your other guests have said, and is in the subject of money. It sounds counterintuitive, you know, but money is 80% mental, 20% physical. It's the same. It's the same, you know, if you have a positive attitude to life and you just take care of yourself, you know, do the obvious, you know, sleep, do exercise, you know, eat right, don't eat junk food, you know. If you just follow the normal, what used to be the normal protocol, it's not normal anymore, you'll be fine.
Yes, you're 100% correct. Man, I don't know about Ricky, but I know about me right now. This is going to be a great episode because I love finance. I have my MBA, right? And you're 100% correct. You know, when you say you have to build a car, you know, you have to get an engine, you have to do, you know, the steps.
Yeah.
But of course you can You can modify it to make the car go a little faster, a little stronger, whatever the situation. But in finance, you have Dave Ramsey saying pay off everything. You have Robert Kiyosaki that says the way how you get rich is by accumulating debt. And then you have the two end of the spectrum, and you have everybody going. You have Grant Cardone saying, "Hey, buy expensive real estate." You have Tony Robbins saying one way. So you have all these different gurus that are coming in the circuit, and people do not understand how finance works. And what they're doing is their arms are going one way, their legs are going one way, and their pockets are out and empty.
Yes, and it's worse than that, because even if you manage to read all these books, even if you manage to go to all Tony Robbins conferences or Grant Cardone's or everyone, and even if you manage, which would be impossible, to accumulate and understand all of that information, there is still the thing that there is something that is practical and that is something that is theoretical. So you could have something that if you theoretically did it, it would be great. But in practice, almost no one does. So even when you have all of the information, you have to distinguish what is practically what you can really do and succeed, and what is theoretical. And the two usually don't go together.
Yeah, you're so right, man. You are so right. So
only through failure, I'll tell you. One of the things that Robert Kiyosaki says is, which I agree, is you have to fail faster, because the more times you fail, the sooner you'll get to the answer that works.
But so why are people so afraid of failing? Yeah, I mean, because that seems to be the barrier. Talk about that.
Yeah, entrepreneurs, when you study the lives of entrepreneurs, you see that they constantly fail. The only difference between an entrepreneur that is successful and an entrepreneur that is not successful is that the one that is successful, when he failed, he said, you know what, next time I'm not going to do this. The other guy said, you know what, this is too hard, I cannot take it anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. When the time that you quit is when you fail, not when you failed. We all failed. We all have emotions. We are all human. We all need to sleep. We all need to eat. We all suffer from our mistakes. Yep. But what I've seen is successful people suffer the same, except what they do after. The decision they make after, and the follow through they do after. It's not that they don't fail. Of course they fail. It's what they do after. Look at Elon Musk. I was reading the news, and Elon Musk put $1 billion on the table. If he didn't buy Twitter, it was going to cost him $1 billion. And he decided not to do it.
Yeah.
What do you think a person would think or would feel after they lost $1 billion?
But if you have 100 and something.
But even then, you would feel pretty shitty.
Yes, he would. Yes, a loss is a loss, right?
Yeah.
A loss is a loss. You're 100% correct. I had so many you brought up Elon Musk, and we're not a what would we say, a drama kind of podcast or whatever, but we talk current events from time to time. And I, in my heart, believe that Elon Musk was not going to buy Twitter. I thought from the beginning that he wasn't good, just because of when I watch patterns of how he operates. He goes to Bitcoin. He says Bitcoin will be the number one thing. He's going to sell it. He's going to buy all cars through his Bitcoin and everything. The next time he drops Bitcoin and he goes to Deutsche. Then he goes on Saturday Night Live and he says something negative about Deutsche. And then Deutsche bottoms out. And then he says he's going to buy Twitter. And then all of a sudden, so I see he plays I think he plays a lot of mind games, and he has so much money that he's not bored, but he's trying to expand on what he can do and what realm he can move in and how much power and influence he has in society. I personally think that's more what I think he's interested in. I know he's interested in making money, but I think he likes the games.
Yeah. And you are so true. In my opinion, we're on this earth to service others and play a game that we like and that we can do well. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Let's get back to Alejandro, because you raised a lot of great points when it came to finance. How at 7 years old did you get locked into finance? You said ever since you were 7, you start studying and you start being interested in finance. Tell us about that.
Because I remember one night I was watching the news. My dad didn't allow us to watch the news because it was too late. But that particular night we were. And the host or the newscaster was talking about the interest rate. And I could see that my dad started to get worried. And I said, why are you worried about interest rates? He says, well, you would not understand it. It has repercussions on the economy. And I said, but because I knew this, I said, but you don't owe any money, right? He says, yes, we don't owe any money. My dad was a very affluent business person.
Yeah.
And I went, well, if you don't owe any money, why do you care then whether the rate is high or low? It wouldn't affect you. And he goes, oh, you would not understand, I'll tell you later. He never did. But since then I because my dad was a very practical, he was a successful person. And I thought, wow, why is he worried about interest rates if he doesn't owe any money? That sort of hooked me.
Wow.
Then another story that I always say, I hope that people listening to you don't get bored because I always said it, but it struck me. When I was 14, I met one of my dad's bank managers. He was the branch manager of one of the banks, close to the office. And he said to me, hey, Alejandro, if you have any questions, just call my secretary, come and see me. Maybe he didn't expect it, but I took it to his word. I called his secretary, made an appointment, I went to see him. And he said, ask me any questions that you want to ask me. And I said, okay, where does money come from? He started to give me a half an hour speech. And after 20 minutes, it dawned on me, he didn't know. I thought to myself,
as
wow.
a bank manager.
Yeah, this is the bank manager of a big branch, handles millions and millions. And he works on this every day. He must have been on his 50s. I was only of 14, at the time. And he didn't know where money came from. That struck me again. I said, wow, this money thing must be very mysterious. Not even the bank manager knows where it comes from or how it comes into being,
Yeah.
Now, were you in the States or were you still in Chile?
I was in Chile.
Okay. Yeah. So you, as you're growing up and you're having these different points of exposure to money and it's piquing your interest, how were you handling money in your pocket? Like, what were your thoughts as you were developing money? Were you one of those kids that were hoarding all your money and finding the piggy banks or your wallets or whatever it may be to start getting the sense of, hey, I need to have money, or finding jobs and odd jobs here and there and saving up your money? Like, how were you what was your relationship with money?
Very bad. I was very bad with money. I tried to save it and I managed to save a little and boom, it would go.
Yeah.
It was very bad. I tried to be a lender. I tried to lend money to my friends, but especially to my brother, he never paid me. So that wasn't good.
Yeah.
But my relationship with money was not good. Just put it that way.
Yeah. And so as you were growing more and more with your relationship with money and you say, hey, what got you on the path of just mortgage? Mortgage is like, you said other people knew that this was your lane. This is where you needed to be, but you didn't really realize it yet. Like, what were you doing for them to see that, yeah, this is where he's the guy for mortgages?
Oh yeah. When I was 8 or 9, I was doing, like I said, I was doing these quote unquote loans. And I used to, my grandmother had an old typewriter, those manual typewriters. And I used to type these legal size contracts that I will make my brother sign or my friend sign, like, okay, I give you this money, but it stated the interest rate, the collateral, what happened if he didn't pay, blah, blah, blah. It was a full, long foolscap or legal size piece of paper, typewritten. And I made everyone sign, me, whoever was the guy. And then I remember my mom used to grab these things and used to read this whole thing from top to bottom. I said, you cannot do that. You cannot charge those usurious interest to your brother or to your friends. Are you crazy? You're a bad person, blah, 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 blah. Then later on in life, I traveled to different countries. And then it was good because when I lived in England for many years, but when I came to the US, I saw that people here have a different attitude towards money that in my opinion was a little healthier than the one that I saw in Chile from different people. You see, money engenders many emotions and it engenders a lot of ideology that, in my opinion, is not conducive to success or happiness. You know, money really is an invention that allows a social interaction and exchange of physical things. That's all money is. Money is not the note. It's not, look, I have a silver dollar here, which I happen to like. You know, that is not money. I also, you know, I went to a coin fair the other day, and they have these copper dollars, which I think that they're awesome. I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah, I can see it. We can see it.
Yeah, that is no money either. You know, money has existed in the digital format since man is man. The most successful form of money was a piece of wood split in two that they used in England, in Imperial England, for 400 years. And the only reason it didn't last any longer is because the Parliament building, where they stored a bunch of these things, caught fire and basically wiped out the money supply. Money has always been an idea, and the idea has assumed different physical representations, like this silver dollar that I'm showing you, like these pieces of wood that they used in England. It was called the tally system. It has been huge rocks. It has been feathers. It has been cows. It has been rice. It has been spices. You name it. People have used money in all sorts of shapes and forms. But money is just an idea, and a very precise idea. It's an idea of value. It's a unit of value that always existed digitally. Digital, I mean, not through a computer, but digitally in the sense that it has no physical form, and it's just kept on a ledger, on some kind of a ledger. Even on the Sumerian tables, you know, from 6,000 years ago, they describe basically transactions, how many units of this were exchanged for how many units of that, and so on and so on. Money is needed for humans to cooperate together. It's a system that allows the cooperations of humans and that allows the production and exchange of services so we can survive in this material world, because we are not flesh, we are spiritual beings. But we have this material flesh, and in order to survive in this material universe, we have to consume matter, food, you know, we have to handle different material things, and we have to cooperate with each other, because no one can survive by themselves.
Correct.
So, so we cannot have negative attitudes towards money, because if we do, basically we're having negative attitudes toward our fellow men and women. And we cannot work in a harmonious or cooperating environment like that. Part of the problem is because you have some unscrupulous human beings that try to control others with money. But that is a different story. I want to bring to your listeners' attention, there is a book called King Rat. I think it was written by James Clavell, one of my favorite authors. He describes the fictional story of a guy in a Japanese concentration camp and how he created an industry in the concentration camp. Even though fictitious, it shows you one thing. Remember when we were talking that the rules of money are not like the rules of physics? However, they are. The true rules of money are like the rules of physics. It doesn't matter if you're in a communist system, if you are in a concentration camp, if you are in a socialistic democracy, or if you are in a free enterprise economy. The rules of money are there because they are not the rules of money. They are rules of human beings. And human beings are colored by the culture. You know, like if you're in Japan, you have the different attitudes or different, you know, you do slightly different things than if you're in the United States or if you're in France. But we are all human beings, and we are all more or less the same. And we act economically very similarly. Those are the rules of money, believe it or not.
So you said the first that's a very good breakdown of the belief system of money, how money came about. So you gave people a few. What's the name of that book that you said again?
King Rat.
King Rat. So if you're listening, people go get that right there. I like the fact that you said you traveled, because sometimes a lot of people, they're only in a bubble and they think that is the world. So you said that America's attitude towards money is more healthy than what you saw in Chile and other places. Can you expound on that? How our attitude here is more healthy towards money?
Yes. Here, I came here in the 90s. And before I came here, I've never saw a place. I've been living in England. I lived a little bit in France. I've lived in New Zealand and in other places in the world. And I've never seen a place where you have people from so many different nationalities, from so many different ethnic backgrounds, cooperate in such harmony and together. I saw people that could barely speak English talking to someone that they could speak English, and I could see that whether you had a high social stature or a lower social stature or a higher level of education or a lower level of education, and even though today we speak so much about race, that's not what I saw when I came here. I saw every single race working together and cooperating together. And everyone, even though they were going for their own interest, somehow they benefit everyone. That's the United States that I saw in the 90s here, not the divisive one that we found in ourselves today. That I've never seen before in my life. In Chile, where I came from, it all depends. If you came from if you had education, if you didn't have education, the kind of car you drive, the kind of last name that you had, and you were sort of framed by that. If you happen to have, if you happen to come from the wrong side of town, it was a much harder way to step up the ladder. It was pretty much like the British system of the 20th century, of the 19th century, the old boys school type of thing.
Yeah.
If you did not belong, if you were not in the club, then you sort of it was a lot harder. And in many European countries, it's like that too, or it was like that too. But in America, all of that was completely gone. Whether you were a recent immigrant or whether you were established millionaire, the millionaire will talk to you. If you have a good idea, if you could contribute to somebody's business of ideas, you were welcome. You were welcome to come in and you were welcome to come out, That I've never seen anywhere. I didn't even know certain nationalities like Armenia. I didn't even know where Armenia was. I had to look it up in the map because I love history, I love geography, and I could not believe that I didn't know what that country was,
Yeah.
So that's the America that I saw, and that I've never seen anywhere. And it took me a while to get the American concept of freedom that I can tell you for a fact, I personally believe does not exist anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
That idea that the government should not have a number to identify you, that idea that you're a sovereign individual and you're completely in control of your life, that idea that the government is answerable to you, not you to the government, does not exist anywhere else to such an extent that people in other countries don't even think these thoughts, because these thoughts never even germinate on their heads, because that's not the paradigm where they live. So in America, we really had a system of free enterprise that I would say, in my opinion, is unique everywhere in the world. You have different versions, but it exists here, we should be blessed because it's not anywhere else.
Correct. Wow.
That's what I mean by attitudes toward money. Also, the attitude that you have to be relatively honest. And I say relatively honest in the sense that if you go to a supermarket and you see something that you like, here in America, we know that most people won't just take it and go with it. That doesn't exist in other countries, by the way.
You mean
Unfortunately, you go to my country at the time that I was there, you go to a supermarket, nobody's watching you, you see something that you like, and most people will go, well, if I don't take it, somebody else will. Why not me? That's the mentality, you see? And a society is shaped by the actions of its members. We are used to blame the government, but it's not really the government. The government can be shitty or not. In most cases and in most countries, it's shitty. The only difference is that in some places it's more shitty than in others. But it's seldom, you really have to go to history and really comment with a magnifying glass to find a good government. So we cannot blame the government because the chances of getting a good government are like 1 in 200,000.
Yeah.
It's us. We make the society, we make the country, we really make the rules, and our actions every day is the place where we live.
Yeah.
You're talking like a true entrepreneur. Because the entrepreneur says, my fate is in my hands. And an entrepreneur says, I'm going to invest, I'm going to put in the work, and what I get out of it is what I put into it.
Yes.
So you're talking like a true entrepreneur, because that's how I see. Pretty much, I see when people are complaining about the government, you have a sphere that you control.
Yes.
And you have a certain amount of control over what you do, right? And some of the choices that you make. And yes, there's systematic this, there's systematic that, and I will never say there's not. But I also say that there's a system of how to break out of that system.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying? And I equate it to like the triangle. In the NBA, when Michael Jordan was playing in the triangle, that was the high. Nobody could figure it out. And of course, they had the right pieces, right? But now try to play that triangle in the NBA right now. It's not effective. Yeah. So the systematic stuff that's there, if you learn how to play against it, it's going to come a time where it's not going to really mean anything. It might win a couple games, but it's not going to win the championship.
Yes.
So that's how I view a lot of how I think about things. And I have to look at it that way, because if I don't look at it that way, I'm going to always think that somebody's trying to push me down, and just like what you say, I'll fail when I say I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and you hit on a very key thing there. So long as you blame someone else, even if you are right, that
Correct.
means you can't change it. If I say, oh, well, this is because Joe Blow, and let's say he's right, Joe Blow did this to me.
Yeah.
He did it. He's guilty. But as long as I'm thinking that way, I'm not going to do anything, because I go, well, it's his fault.
Yes.
When I do, it's his fault, immediately I preclude and I close all doors for me to change it.
Yeah, that's
you
so
see what I mean?
Yeah, because you know what?
But entrepreneurs don't think that way. Like if you are really in a shitty government, the entrepreneur is not going to go, well, there's nothing I can do, the taxes, the this, the that. What the entrepreneur does, I'm going to move to Florida. And he does, and he's doing it.
Yes.
And, I'm in California. You will not believe the record numbers of hundreds of thousands of people moving out of the state. For the first time, I think in years and decades, California now has a net out migration.
Yeah.
Because the government is really effing it up here. Yeah. But again, it's your choice. Are you blaming them and don't doing nothing about it, or you take your destiny in your hands?
It's funny because you can't have both, right? You can't blame, and I'm going to break it down for all the travelers here. When you're trying to accomplish something and you're failing, you can't then blame give someone else the power and the blame for your failures. And then on the flip side, when you succeed, you try to take the credit on your own end. Right? You can't have both ways. Either you own it on one side and on the other, or you just don't own it at all, because we oftentimes as a people, and I think it's of our nature to blame someone else, right? It's of our nature to look at what we're doing. Like I have my three boys, and their first response to something is, oh, that person or that individual or this circumstance is the reason why this happened. I'm like, no, stop talking about the circumstance. Stop talking about the person. Let's talk about you and you owning the actions that you had in this situation. And let's just control that, because you can't control anything else, right? But a lot of adults, from the reality of life and what we see, a lot of adults have not mastered or come to the realization that, hey, you need to have that hard conversation with yourself and just be honest with yourself. Like, hey, if I make a mistake, I'm not blaming someone else. Hey, it's my mistake. I own it. I did it. And I have that same attitude if I make success. Hey, I own it. I did it, right? And if we can really push that out. Go ahead.
Yeah, but even if you're right, even if you was the other person to blame, even if that is true, even if that is true, you still need to ignore it, because if you don't, you'll never do something to avoid that from happening again.
Yes. Hey, you're listening to the Success Journey Show. Just a reminder, follow us on our social media at The Success Journey Show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, you can check us out on our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. So, Alejandro, man, I'm itching, and I know Marlon is too. He's being patient. Mortgage. That right now is
everybody ears.
The buzzword.
Everybody that's in the car right now, they just turned up their radio, Alejandro. They whoever's watching, they took out their pen and paper and go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Okay. You have people that are hearing the conversation of, hey, I want to buy a new house, right? And they're looking at the interest rates, how that plays on their mortgage. You have those people that want to refinance and they're looking at interest rate, how that plays on their mortgage. You have people that are just looking in that house hunt, all those different things that are circled around this whole conversation, all these different elements, the society that we're in, the fluctuation in interest rates. What's going on in your head? What are you seeing? What are you encouraging people to do during this time right now that we're in?
I'll tell you, and I'm going to talk from a practical viewpoint. So if anybody in your audience is a financial planner, they might not agree with me, and they will be right, because from a theoretical point of view, everything that I'm about to say is wrong. But from a practical viewpoint, I've seen it over and over that is right.
Yeah.
So this is what is happening. When the problem to manage money, and by the way, I'm not the one that came up with this. There was another philosopher in the 50s that said this much better than me. If you want to control money, you have to make the savings a necessary expense. You have to make the savings such that you can't not do them. Because usually what happens is we get a bunch of money, we pay everything, and what is left, maybe we save it. And we all heard these financial advisors' recommendation that you need to save 10%, that you need to pay yourself first, and blah, blah, blah. But you go, well, how can I pay myself? Yeah, I can pay myself first, and then I don't have money to pay the bills. So what do I do?
Yeah.
The way you do it is you make the savings a necessary expense. And I'll give you an example.
Wow.
If you buy a house, if you get a mortgage, and let's not talk for now about the interest rate. Let's say that you have to pay a $2,000 mortgage. At the beginning, out of those $2,000 that you're shelling out, at least 500 or 600 the first year are going to come back to you. When I say come back to you, I mean that you shell out 2,000, you get back 600. How come? Because now you are paying down the mortgage. Paying down the mortgage doesn't mean that you're making your lender rich. It means that you are owing $600 less in that month. It means that you have more equity. It means that your net worth went up. And you say, well, it's just $600. What am I going to do with $600? That's not the point. The point is now you're forced to do it. If you do this for a year, now how much is that for a year? 500 or 600 times 12. That's like $7,200, right?
Yep.
Now, well, $7,000, some people may scoff at that. I did, I'm just talking about myself,
Yep.
What can I do with $7,000? But hey, do you have $7,000 saved up? No. Do you have a plan to save $7,000? No. Are you going to do something to save $7,000? No. Are you going to get a raise? No. So how are you going to do it? Well, the mortgage starts like that. But as you go on, more and more of that money comes back to you. And you go, well, what about, if it's $2,600, what about the other $1,400? Well, the other $1,400 our shitty government will give you a credit for on your taxes. What? Yeah. The $1,400, depending on your tax bracket, you're going to get 30%, 35%, whatever it is that you can deduct. Well, I don't care. Well, look at your tax return. How much taxes you paid last year? Well, I pay, a regular person will pay like $6,000. Well, how about if now you have to pay $5,000?
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Well, it's just $1,000. Yeah, but $7,000 plus 1,000, now we're at 8,000.
Yes.
Now, not only that, now you control an asset. Now on a $2,000 payment, it's about $300,000. Now you control an asset that is worth about $300,000. So if you only goes up, if you only get a little bit of appreciation, now you get another 5 or 10 G's at the end of the year. So 5 or 10 Gs, $1,000 in taxes, $8,000 now on the mortgage payment. And you go, well, but you can get depreciation. You cannot get depreciation. It can go up, it can go down. Yeah, but what are you doing now? How much appreciation are you getting now? Zero. What can you buy now within your means that has appreciation? Zero. Because even if you do this, even if you buy the silver coin, which I recommend that you do, this has very little appreciation when you compare it to a house.
Yes.
Most people that have a lot of money, they don't make their money working. They work like a dog, and they work sometimes 12 hours a day, but that's not how they make their money. They make their money buying things that do that they buy them, they don't have to do much to that thing, and the thing goes up in value.
Yes,
sir. So you may say, well, it's true, but I can rent the same house for $1,000 instead of $2,000. And that could be true, especially in California. It's not true, though, for most of the country, in most areas of the country right now, if you can afford to rent, you can afford to buy.
Correct.
Not in California, not in Southern or Northern California. But so I'm going to talk about our case, which is the most extreme, where the house that you could buy for $2,000, you can rent for $1,000. Although the distance is getting narrower. Yeah. In every other section of the country, this is no-brainer. I mean, if you're paying $2,000 in rent, man, you can buy. That's it. Yeah. All you have to do is save a little. I'm going to go to that too. So when you pay that $1,000 to your landlord, all you're buying is 30 days. 30 days. After that, you're done. You didn't buy anything. It's like consumption. You don't get any investment. You don't get any tax write-off. You get nothing. So people that are listening to me might say, so are you telling me that I need to spend $2,000 just to save and get all of that instead of spending only $1,000? And the answer is yes, because you are making the savings a necessary expense.
Yes.
Now, let's talk now about the rate. The rate, nobody's going to believe me. And like I said, all the financial planners are going to shoot me down. I'm going to get all this hate mail, but I'm going to say it anyhow. The rate is somewhat immaterial. And I'm going to tell you a story. This was my first transaction back
Alejandro, before you tell that story, you remember he said, send the hate mail to him.
Go
ahead, Alejandro.
So I'm also a realtor. I only do mortgages, but I'm also a realtor. I also work in commercial real estate. I also work for a hedge fund raising money. So I've seen the real estate industry from every angle. So when I was starting out, my broker said, you speak Spanish, right? I said, yeah, I do. And he says, go and talk to that couple. They don't speak English. They only speak Spanish. Do the loan, and you'll make double commission. Double commission because I was helping them to buy the property as a realtor.
Sell it. Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, at that time, if you were a realtor, realtors could do their own loans. Now that it's coming back, it depends on the state, depends on the regulation. But at the time, it was very easy. Today, you can do it, but there are some things you need to watch for. So I did the loan. And this guy told me, he said, in Mexico, in the 80s, I bought a home. It cost at the time 50,000 pesos. Those 50,000 pesos was the most that I could afford. It was an unbelievably high number. I don't know how I pulled it off. My payment was like 350 pesos a month. It was such a staggering amount that I could barely do it. And then in Mexico, there was a huge devaluation. And the peso lost its value to such an extent that in the 90s, with just a month's salary, I settled my mortgage. Now, people listening to me are going to go, well, that's Mexico. That would never happen here. But it's not true. This has happened to every single country in the world today. It has happened in my country, in Chile, and I witnessed this in 1974. And you may say, well, it's never going to happen in America. Well, in America, 10 years from now, this is going to happen too. But that's another discussion. Now, one thing that I want to tell you is that inflation will make this feasible for you, because now you're paying the $2,000. $2,000 may seem a lot of money. 5 years from now, it's going to be the same $2,000. But that $2,000 is not going to seem much.
No.
And 10 years from now, that $2,000 is going to seem like $500 today.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as time goes by, that payment becomes more and more and more and more meaningless. Now, how does that translate to the rate? Usually, and this is why I don't like some of my fellow mortgage brokers, usually, unless you have a full 1% difference, there's no point on refinancing. Meaning that if you have a home at a 3%, versus a home at the 4%, for most people, the difference is immaterial. Let me repeat that. 1% difference for most people, unless you have a $7 million home, but for most people, 1% is immaterial. You really need to cross the 1%. You really need to go into the 1.5%. You really need to go to 2% to start really making a difference. Mm-hmm. So whether the rate is today 5.3, 4.7, 5.5, 6%, 4.6, 4.8, 4.9, in the scheme of what I just related to you, it's all the same. So that's why, and another thing is this, when you apply for a mortgage, you are eligible for about 50 rates. Nobody knows this. Of the 50 rates, about 4 to 6 make any sense to you. Usually the mortgage broker arbitrarily picks one and says, this is your rate. But that's not your rate. You have another 5 or another 4, depending on your situation. So you need to be aware of all these other 4, because depending on what you want to do, depending if you want to sell the home, depending if you want to stay there for a while, depending on what you want to rent it, depending on your specific goal, one of those 4 or 5 rates could be more applicable to you. So even the rate you can control, whether you pay a little bit more, a little bit less, whether we take some of the closing costs and we rearrange them a little. A mortgage is not a bill. Most people think that a mortgage is like a bill. It's like your cell phone bill. You get a cell phone bill, there's nothing you can do. It says you have to pay $150. There is no room for negotiation. But not a mortgage. A mortgage has a lot of moving parts. You can design a mortgage. You can custom make it for you. You can design the rate within a range, of course. You can design the rate. You can design the payment. So once we look at, or anybody that knows this, looks at your situation and design and custom makes the mortgage, now you have a custom-made financial instrument that will allow you to save. Like I said, every financial advisor is going to shoot me down on this, because most people don't view this as a saving or an instrument. They view it as a debt instrument. It is a debt instrument, but if you do it correctly, it turns itself into a powerful savings instrument. So that's why. And then the last thing, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of stuff. The last thing is this.
No. This is not boring.
Okay. The last thing is this. We all know you don't need to be a master's in economics to know that we're going down, right? You don't have to have a master in economics to see that the dollar is losing value like there is no tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So people instinctively, everyone from from any profession, they know, and we know, and I know, that if I have a little bit of money on the side, I have 2 options. Either I leave it in the bank to get taxed to death, or the value will erode to 0, or I put it somewhere. So for most people, we don't have the option or the luxury to say, well, it's so much in stocks, so much in bonds, so much in this. We only have one option, really, for most people. And that option is the house. That's why you see a lot of people buying houses like crazy, because the money is in your house. It's much better than the money in the bank. So because of all of these reasons, I think that for most people that are working to buy a house, no matter if the rate is a little higher, a little lower, or whatever, it's the best financial decision. Now you all of a sudden have an asset that appreciates. You all of a sudden have a tax deduction. You all of a sudden create 4 savings accounts. And guess what? If you do nothing but pay that bloody mortgage, nothing but that, you are guaranteed to have savings for retirement, if anything.
Yeah, man, Alejandro, first of all, I don't care what the financial advisors say. I'm exactly on your page. Every page that you turned just a while ago, I'm 100% with you. And I can attest to everything you said, even from the interest rate. The first time I bought a house in 2005, my interest rate, when I look back at it, I looked at the paperwork the other day, 6.5%.
I know. And that was a deal. And that was a deal.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, that was a deal.
That was a good interest rate. People were like, oh man, I got it. And nobody was complaining. But once everybody saw the interest rate, because remember at one time that interest rate was all the way at 10.
Oh 14. Yeah. When I started, I got a 7.5 for a girl, and I told her, that's the deal of a lifetime. Imagine.
Right? So a lot of people, they don't have the context or they're not looking at history to actually understand what's going on with the housing economy or even with the economy. What they do is they jump on a bandwagon of some economist that's on TV saying whatever, and everybody's comparing the interest rate to 2%. That was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Why
Completely.
compare? I saw a shooting star today. That don't mean I'm going to see a shooting star tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea, there is a book that another guy wrote. It's called 5,000 Years of Interest. This guy, I don't know how he did it. He researched the history of interest rates going back 5,000 years.
Wow.
He discovered that the average interest rate for the duration of humanity is 5%. So that tells you, like you were saying now, if the average interest rate for humanity since the Sumerian times, we're talking about like 8,000 years. He said 5,000, but it goes all the way to 8,000 years. It's been 5%, and somebody's saying you can buy a house at 2%. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it's an anomaly. So, and it's true. And all that I've accumulated, any wealth that I've accumulated, I have to attribute it to buying a house. Because from buying that house when it was first of all, I bought it at 6.5 and I bought the house. I didn't understand buying a house, but I did it anyway. And I bought a house, and that gave me the courage to buy another one and another one. And then what happened was, just like you said, over time, that equity, I was able to use that equity to actually propel me when it came to buying and selling. So a lot of people are just looking at, when I hear people saying, "Oh man, you're buying a bill," I'm like, no, you're not buying a bill, because just like what
from a theoretical viewpoint, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But from a practical viewpoint, no.
No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I can attest
and
to
all
that.
the deductions and everything that happens. Now, Rick, I don't know if you want to go somewhere. I wanted to ask something about the equity. A lot of people, they tell you, you have equity in your house, right? But if it is very hard to find a financial institution that will give you a HELOC loan on your secondary. So I don't know if you have anything that you can talk to our listeners about, our travelers about, on how to navigate through that. I found TD Bank. TD Bank is the only one that I found right now for myself that works, that I could take out a HELOC loan, a HELOC and that's a home equity line of credit on a secondary.
You mean to have a second as a HELOC, not a second as a third, right?
Not a second as a third, no.
Okay.
So I have another house. I have multiple homes, and I'm taking out the equity out of my third home.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I could go to TD Bank and say, "Hey, I want to take out my equity," and then they put it in the account, and I use it just like a credit card.
Yeah, the secret to that is the credit unions. We do a lot of, in the last few months, we've done a lot of those HELOCs and seconds, and we do them through the credit unions. Credit unions, they're usually smallish, and they don't have like a sales department. So what they do, there are in the United States like 2 or 3 organizations that are like the sales branch of the credit union. So you have this big lender, and they go to like different credit unions, and they say, "Look, I know that you don't have the staff to sell, you don't have to do that, but we'll do it for you. All we want to do is like, tell us how you want us to write the loan. We'll find the customer, we'll advertise, we'll find the mortgage brokers like me, and then we'll package the loan, and then we'll give it to you in the conditions that you want." So there are 2 or 3 big companies that do this. So you go to them, they give you the HELOC, and then it's serviced by then the credit union is the one that finances it. And the advantage for you is now you have a relationship with an awesome credit union, because credit unions are like a parallel banking system. Not many people know this, but credit unions are different. They are in the banking system, but they are different than the traditional bank. Everything is cheaper. Everything is a better service. Credit cards are cheaper, HELOCs are cheaper. So that is the way. If you belong to a credit union already, go to them and they'll give you a HELOC for your home. If not, we can do it, or there are other people that can do it, that they have a relationship with these big companies that in the back end give the loans to the credit unions. But to have a short answer, it is possible. Banks are sort of shying away from that. I know that TD Bank is closing some of these HELOCs already because they see what is coming. You see, They have analysts, they have the money to pay all these people to look. and they see what is coming. So they are like closing those lines.
Yeah. Now I heard you talk about the hedge funds that you're a part of and stuff like that. Can you, without, I don't know if it's a gray area or bad area for you to talk about, what I've been seeing is a lot of the hedge funds have been taking their money instead of diversity on the stock market. Just like you said, is right now housing is one of the better place to put that money. And I've seen a lot of hedge, they're going that direction. Some are even buying out whole development and then renting out the property until whatever time they decide to come out that deal. So I don't know if you could talk about that model that a lot of hedges are using.
Yes. What is happening is we have to have an international viewpoint. The economy is integrated, and this is not recent. The economy has been integrated since the Roman Empire. And this is what is happening. Outside of the US, even though we're not doing very well, everyone else is doing a lot worse, especially Europe. Europe is on the way down faster than anyone.
The euro and the American dollar for the first time today was 1 penny apart.
Yeah. And many people, many economists, and like I said, not me, all of this information, I get it because it's a passionate subject and I read it from other people that are much more clever than me. So this is not my research. But the euro is collapsing, and the euro in a few years from now is going to completely disappear. Again, some of the members of your audience, especially if you are international, are not going to be happy with what I'm saying, but it is what is happening. So people that have money overseas, the only place they can put their money and that is safe for the moment is here. You have an ocean of money coming in from abroad constantly here. This, by the way, is not a new phenomenon. It happened in World War I, it happened in World War II, and it happened in many other times in history. All of these people are converting to the dollar. All of these people are bringing their money in. That's why the dollar is not collapsing yet, because you have all of these people demanding dollars and coming with their money here. And because there is nowhere to put it, you have to think. It's difficult for a normal person to think about this. But if you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, it's hard to imagine. What are you going to do? Where can you put this money that you can put it and get it out, and put it and get a rate of return? Classically and traditionally, that was government bonds, like US government bonds. But there is so much distrust of the government that all these people that manage pension funds and then manage these oceans of money are not putting it in the US treasuries anymore, less and less and less. They go to the stock market. That's why the stock market goes up and up and up and up, because these people, all they're looking for is preservation of capital. They don't want to lose. Europe has been with negative interest rates for over 10 years. There's nothing they can do in Europe. If they can just preserve it and maybe make something, they would rather come here. And they put it on the stock market. And the other thing they've been doing, like you said, they have been buying lots of houses. But hedge funds and institutional companies, they don't like to buy houses, because houses is a lot of work. You have to rent it, you have to maintain it, then you have to sell it. There is a cost. It's not like if you have hundreds of millions of dollars, you can buy a financial instrument, boom, sell it the next day for a minimal cost. Not so with houses. And that is the reason why mortgage rates, even though they have been going up, they are relatively low, because of this ocean of money that is seeking a rate of return. So even though the Fed is trying to force the rates up, this ocean of money is gobbling everything they can. If they get 2%, they're happy. If they get 3%, they're happy. If they get only 1%, they're happy too.
Yeah.
So that's what is happening. That's why we have this battle right now between all of this ocean of money coming from overseas and the domestic policy. I don't know if I answered your question or if you made it.
No. Your answer, because what's happening is that people, like you said, they're looking for a traditional solution on what's happening in the economy right now. And there's it's not traditional, because what's happening is, just like you said, because we have such a free enterprise here, anybody from anywhere can invest.
Yeah. Yes. And then
go ahead.
And then a solution because I've been thinking about this for myself. What can a normal person do? Invest your money in a house if you can. And if you're not invested on something, don't let it lie around. Don't put it in the bank. Don't put it on a saving. No, don't park it on a traditional savings instrument. There is something else. I see that we don't have the time to go into it, but there is another guest you had about a week ago that talked about the infinite banking concept from Nelson Nash. That's another place. That's another place that Wall Street bombarded to death in the 70s. That was the way people in America have been saving for over 100 years, and that is still valid. If you can do that, do that. If you can buy these silver dollars that only cost $20 or 25 now, do it. If you can buy a house, do it. Don't leave it in the bank. And the most important of all, find your niche, because whatever you can do to be of service to others will guarantee your survival in any economy. I was 7 or 8 in Chile when the communists took over the country and completely ruined it. I was like 8 or 9 when the military defeated the communists. It took many years to do, by the way, it was not done overnight, and the country was completely bankrupted. And it had to come absolutely from zero. There was hardly any food. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen the jets bombarding the presidential palace. My mom had to grab us to hide under a table. But me and my brother, we wanted to see, you see? So I've seen what happens. So we're not there yet. In my opinion, we're like 10 years away from that. But that's what you can do. Find your niche, be of value to others. Save, even if theoretically it doesn't make sense, even if other more famous people, were more pedigree there, you do this, do that. Just do the obvious and do the practical. House, silver coins, invest on education so you can be better for others, because that will never go away. Even if everything goes to shit. Oh, I guess you're going to cut that out. Even if it goes bad,
we'll leave that one for you. That's a special one.
People still need people to survive. You cannot survive. I cannot survive by myself. Be local. Get friends. Don't depend only on the internet. Get to know your neighbor. Go to your cafe or local store. Talk to people, because this is going to be your support group when things come to hell. That they will. This has happened everywhere in the world without exception, except us. We've had a break for 270 years, but our golden days are coming to stop. That's not the end of the world, by the way. This has happened through history over and over. We are resilient. We will recover.
Yeah.
But it will recover when we are local, when we know our neighbor, where we continue to work together in harmony, and when we are of value to each other. Don't worry so much about the economy. Don't worry about the value of the this or the that. Just do what you can control, and you'll be fine.
I love how you brought that, circled that back around to the community.
Yeah, because that's, I know we don't have the time, but for your listeners, you can research this. You can research on Google. There are communities right now in the UK and in other countries that have created their own currency. They run out of the regular money. So the council or the municipality or the city has created their own currency that is valid at the shops. And that's how you survive. You don't have to depend on a dollar that is crashing or on a currency that is so controlled. They want to change to this digital currency, so they have complete control of you. You can just bypass that stuff. You can create your own local currency. But that's not something you can do on your own. You need a support group to do this. So that's why you need to know people. Because when they shut down the internet, which they're planning to do, and when they shut down the cell phone and all that, what are you going to do? Are you going to be alone in your house? No. Start to create an analogous community right now.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
I love it. Yeah, it's going back to everything, because people, that even when they're hearing this, they can be, overwhelmed as to where to start. And I love what Alejandro has tried to really simplify the difference between theoretical versus practical. And we're at a time now where, like Marlon, you said we're in a different time. We are in a different time, and everything that you've heard may not be relevant to what is relevant for you today. And it's not a time to say, oh, well, Alejandro has the path forward, or Dave Ramsey has a path forward, or Tony Robbins has a path forward. It's a time for you to really look at your situation, who you are, what you want out of life, and try to figure out, hey, what is going to be the best practical way forward for me? And if I'm looking 5, 10, 20 years down the line, how am I going to make things work, right? And so I really appreciate you really just breaking down those aspects for us today. And I would ask you this, 'cause I know we are running out of time, man. But I would love to. I want to, man. I want to even talk about the insurance game with you. But
Yeah.
I know we're running short. We probably have to do a part two of this. But as you're looking at, you know, your life now and the things you know now, and you kind of broke it down to us. So, um, you go back when you first got into America and you started seeing the economy and how things were shaping up in the community and things of that nature. Knowing what you know now, what are some things that you would have applied immediately when you entered into the country?
I would have done what Marlon did. I would have bought a house.
Really?
I remember when I came to America in the 90s, I used to watch this infomercial by Carlton Sheets, where I don't know if you remember, they had this infomercial going on and on how you could buy money with, how you could buy a property with no money down. And he had he would sell you a course for like $100. I would have done that. I should have bought the course, which I thought many times, but never did. I should have bought that course, and I should have done what you, Marlon, did. But I was, I guess, in a position that many people could be, that they say, well, I could buy a house right now, but it's not my ideal house. But I just finished with this little story. I go to this cafe because I love going to this local cafe where I meet people. And this guy heard me talking about a mortgage with someone else. And he says, hey, let me introduce myself. I just went to Bank of America. And they said I don't qualify. I said, well, tell me your story. And the more he talked, the more I could see that he was qualified. So to make a long story short, we got him the mortgage. He bought the house. Once he bought the house, like you said, Marlon, he realized he could do it. And he could realize that it was not that difficult. And that propelled him to now want to buy another house. He's only been there less than a year. His equity is already over $70,000 equity because he bought the house, and the house in the particular location where his went up, you know, and he also did some renovations, not too many, but enough to push the value up. And now, because he did it, because he saw that it was possible, because he saw that even though there's a lot of paperwork, you can do it. And like you said, he tasted it. Now he's ready for his second home.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So take the plunge. That's what I should have done. I was like too perfectionist. What I wanted to buy at the time cost like $1 million. And that was a big mistake. I should have bought the $200,000 that I could afford.
Yeah.
And then today I could probably be living in that.
$1 million, yeah.
Yeah, or more, you know? So that is, follow Marlon's example. That's what I would say.
Oh, man, I love it. Now, if you want Marlon's number, you got to reach out to us.
You can send me the hate mail, and then you can sell the praises to Marlon.
Hey, Ricky's so right. We tell some of our guests that there's going to be a part two, but Alejandro, we're going to have to bring you back because I like how before Ricky wraps it up, and I love Ricky wraps up because he just brings it home. You don't only talk about what's going on now. You show from history. You show the knowledge where you've read. You talk about how it's practical. You talk about life experiences, and then you show how whatever model that you were prescribing will work. And I love that about how you look. And you have a very vast knowledge, and you've been in different countries. I always like to talk to people that have lived outside of the 4-block radius that a lot of people think is the world. So thank you for coming on. We're going to have to bring you back because infinity banking is something that we have to get our travelers to go on. You guys look it up so that when Alejandro comes back and expound on it, that you guys will have some knowledge on it.
Not a problem. And if I may, let me tell you my short plug so people know what I do.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Yep.
So if you run your own company, or you are a successful artist or highly compensated independent professional, and you have been denied a mortgage, or they've told you don't qualify, or you qualify for less than what you need, give us a chance. We specialize on the self-employed. We specialize on the successful artist, and we specialize on people that can not always qualify because their tax returns don't show their financial situation. And it doesn't matter if the credit is not that good. We've seen over and over that entrepreneurs don't have the perfect credit, And the reasons are too long to go now that we're in part 2. I can go over as to why is that. So even if you have less than perfect credit, but you are an independent professional or entrepreneur, give us a chance. That's our specialty.
Love it. Love it.
And where can they reach?
Where can they reach you?
Yeah. The best way is to send me an email at info@prosperity lending, prosperity like something prosperous, prosperity lending, all one word, .us. info@prosperitylending.us. And our website is the same. It's www.prosperitylending.us.
Love it. And guys, with that, we're going to leave you with another episode from the Success Journey Show. Thank you so much for joining us and traveling with us. Check out our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. And we'll see you guys next week at the same time, the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Marlon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been listening to The Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.